Biv LA. Good morning. Thursday, February 28th, we awoke to clear sunny skies once again. We were now in Baja de los Angeles, just about halfway down the Baja Peninsula, and the weather was starting to noticeably get warmer. The first full week that we rode, it was somewhat chilly, lows down into the 40s at night and then highs in the 50s and 60s during the day. But now it's actually starting to get quite nice and actually feel more like Mexico. We had breakfast, checked our email, what Brad's doing right here, and then hit the road by about 9 a.m. We were planning on having a short day, 80 miles down to Punta San Francisco, but all on dirt, which, depending on the condition of the road, could be a long day. So we said goodbye to our new Utah trail riding friends and hit the road. Well, when we were able to find it, the way out of town was a little confusing. There was no obvious road to take. But once we did find it, it was actually fairly decent. Some sandy stuff, some gravel, some patches of big rocks, and then every once in a while you'd come across a wash that kind of without warning suddenly there was no road there and you just had to gun the throttle, just get the front end up a little bit and just cruise right over it. But overall it was a pretty fun road. You can see Brad having some fun here and I actually enjoyed it. It was just challenging enough in spots with some sandy patches, such as the one going over there, to get a little bit of sand practice in, and without it being just long extended, I was able to stay loose, and that was one thing that I really had to work on from the previous day. A big part of the problem in Calamoy Wash was, well, first of all, that I just got mentally psyched out, and first of all went too slow, but second of all, noticed that I was really tensing up on the bars and was getting kind of too far back on the bars. And one thing that we did from yesterday to today was we moved my tank bag. It had been on the tank itself, and we moved it back onto my cargo rack with some of the other stuff, and that allowed me to get a little bit more forward, actually get straight up and down on the pegs. And that plus one other thing that Brad had told me the previous night. We were talking about some trail riding that he did with friends back in Washington, and he mentioned one guy, that a friend of his, Cody. He said, you know, one thing I'm always impressed riding behind him is how still his body stays, just straight up and down, no matter what we're going through. I think we're going to eat shit, and I'm getting all tense. He's just straight up and down, just cool as can be, and just moves the bike around under him. And Brad had been telling me this for the last week, basically. You need to move the bike under you, and had said, you know, put weight on the peg in the direction you want to go. But I wasn't quite getting it. It's a different movement than street bikes, and I wasn't quite getting it until he said that about Cody, and I could just see that in my mind's eye, going through all these trails and your body staying straight and moving your bike under you. And I kind of got it. It just clicked. And as we went through some of these more challenging places where you have bigger rocks and you need to move your line around, and I was just getting it much better today in a way I hadn't been the previous days, even though I had known kind of what I was supposed to do. It just clicked to where the riding today, actually, even some of the more challenging stuff where you'd be going through big rocks and you'd be going over these washes at speed and get your bike knocked a little sideways, it was actually enjoyable. I was having a really good time here. I don't think I got it on film, but it was somewhere right in this stretch that we ran into three guys that we had camped next to them up at Gonzaga Bay. And three guys, two of them were on KTM big ones, I think 950s or 990s, and the other guy was on my bike's big brother, the DR650. And they were not having a real great time with this road, especially the guys on the KTMs, just kind of big bikes to bring on stuff like this. And actually at one point I had just passed him, and I guess the guy went down, and Brad saw it, so he stopped and helped the guy pick up the bike, and it took Brad, the guy, and one of the other guys to pick up this big KTM. So they just weren't having a lot of fun. It made me feel a little bit better to know that I wasn't the only dirt neophyte having a tough time with dirt down in Baja. I thought I was really cruising through here, but it wasn't quite fast enough for Brad. He took off, and I tried to keep up for, about 10 seconds before, okay, this is stupid. I'm just going to back off, let the dust die down, and then resumed riding at my own pace. And we came up and over this slope. It's called Cuesta de la Ley, which means slope of the law. And it's not nearly as bad as its reputation had suggested. It's pretty easy riding, so I was still going fairly fast up and over the slope. And when I came down the other side, I couldn't even see Brad. I couldn't see any of his dust, nothing. And so then I started wondering, well, shoot, did he go off one of the edges here? And I, just didn't hear his cries of agony below. And no, he's just that much faster than me. I stopped and turned the bike off for a bit, didn't hear anything, so then got right on and kept on going. And sure enough, about 10 miles up the road, there he was. Just hanging out by his bike, wondered if I had gone off the edge. Shortly thereafter, we arrived at Playa San Rafael, just a beautiful, just isolated beach. It's fairly popular for camping. There was nobody there when we were there, except for the guy who lives there, Pancho. He's been there for 28 years, and as he says, he has no family, but he has friends from around the world. Really friendly guy. As we rolled up, he came out with 2 cold beers in hand, and doesn't speak a whole lot of English, but got a chance to practice my Spanish on him. And yeah, just a really friendly guy. Had a good time there. We talked to him for about 30 minutes before the KTM and DR650 guys rolled up, and they had a beer also, and talked to him a little bit and played with his dog Maya, a really friendly dog. And yeah, just really enjoyed it. We were talking to the guys, and they said they were headed same place we were for the night, Punta San Francisco, and it was actually really early in the day, and Brian and I thought, well, maybe we'll go a little bit further, just depending on how the road was. So I actually didn't get any footage of the road from Playa San Rafael southwards. It was actually pretty sandy and got sandier the further south we went. But at this point, I was actually feeling pretty good on it. There was even some deep sections where, the bike's just wallowing all around. And I was able to stay loose and comfortable and keep going fast, and felt really good about it. So we got to the turnoff for Punta San Francisco and just didn't want to stop for the day. It was only 2 or 3 miles off to the east if we went to the point. So we decided to turn to the west, and man, I wish I got some footage of that trail because it was really narrow and really rocky and really sandy and rutted all at the same time. Oh, with cactus very tight in. So it was a place you did not want to go off the trail because you're going to be hugging a cactus. But actually did really well on it, and then it came to a road, and that opened up and was actually a really fast road. It was pretty washboarded in places, and some places completely washed out, and other places it was sandy. And other places some pretty big rocks, but we were going so fast we just pretty much sailed over all of it. And yeah, this is a fun ride. I think it's 28 kilometers from the turnoff until the ranch where we ended up spending the night. This is a good example of a sandy section of road. This isn't too bad, it's not too deep, but it's enough that you can actually see the motion of the bike going back and forth. The tail end is moving around quite a bit, and that's just normal in sand, and that's one of the things that's hard about getting used to riding in sand, is just being used to that motion and not tensing up on the bars when it happens, because that just makes it worse. I later found a crack and a weld on one of my side bag mounts, and I think this is the hit that just may have done it. And I figured I'd better stop and check things out, make sure nothing was obviously broken. Some riders back in Bay of LA had told us about this place called Rancho Piedras Blancas. It's a working cattle ranch. It's one of the largest producers of machaca in the area. And they just recently started catering to tourists as well. They have a little restaurant and they sell gasoline, and they also have some cabañas for rent. And so Brad and I decided to stop in here for lunch. It was actually a pretty late lunch. We didn't realize it, but it's actually 4 p.m. since they're on mountain time here. And we pulled up and said hi and asked if we could eat there, and they said sure. And didn't realize it was kind of an odd time. But they invited us into their house, and the rancher's daughter made us these delicious machaca burritos. And it was such a nice idyllic spot that Brad and I decided to stay the night. We were able to get a cabaña for 300 pesos. Really nice place. And yeah, the ranch was just a neat place to spend the night. We ended up really liking it.
Alright, Brad and I decided to call it a day a little bit early because we have found the most incredible place. This is called Rancho Piedras Blancas. It's a working cattle ranch. It's one of the biggest producers of machaca in the area. 3 burritos of which I just had. The best meal we've had so far in Mexico. And I'll swing around and show you a little bit. Over there is the ranch house. We actually ate in their house. There's a restaurant over here, but we're the only ones staying here, so they just invite us into their house to eat. And yeah, I had machaca burritos and some frijoles and some cervezas. And oh, it was incredible. The ride in here was great. Sandy road, not too sandy, and just fun riding. And this is just a beautiful spot. And you see all the cactus around and the trees. I'm not sure if this is a swimming pool or a stock pond right here. They have other cabins, hot showers, bathrooms right next to us. There's our bikes with the cacti. And yeah, just a really incredibly friendly family, and just a nice spot. And here's Bradley, all changed out of their riding clothes and into shorts, ready to go see some cows get killed.
Oh yeah.
They're slaughtering 4 cows today.
I'm praying for them right now.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to work.
Praying for them to be on my plate tomorrow.
And here's our room. It's either 200 or 300 pesos. We didn't quite hear correctly. Either way, incredibly cheap for a nice little room. Got our tequila for tonight. And yep.
There the cows are getting killed by quattro.
Be kind of delicious is what it'll be.
As a matter of fact, the family invited us to come watch the cows get slaughtered and butchered, and that completely freaked Brad out. He said, no way. I initially resisted, but they're kind of waving me over, so I thought, well, I might as well go over and see how it's made. I like to eat it. Might as well see where it comes from. But anyways, I didn't get any photos or any snuff film footage, but I can tell you a few things. First of all, they do it old school down there. And second of all, that sweet looking girl that's standing next to me here, yeah, she's a bloodthirsty killer. She did teach me a lot of Spanish though, mostly having to do with cow parts, and occasionally hosed the blood off of my flip-flops, so yeah, good times were had by all except maybe the cows.
It's morning on the ranch. Cows are being fed. Buenos dias.
After another fantastic breakfast, Brad and I packed up and hit the road, and we actually took a shortcut out of the ranch down to Vizcaíno rather than a road that's been described as the worst road in Baja. It's apparently very potholed and very washed out. We took one that consisted of deep sand instead, which a few days ago might have freaked me out, but I actually did pretty good this time. Didn't wipe out at all, and just kept going fast, stayed loose, and did just fine. We did have one section where there was a pretty steep hill climb that was actually washed out, and I hesitated. Brad just scooted right up, and I was pretty intimidated, and sat thinking about it at 20 seconds, and then said, well, this is stupid. Pin it to win it is what Brad always tells me, so I did, and got up just fine. We were rewarded in about the last 10 miles with the first 4-lane sand highway that I've ever seen. It's more of a sand freeway. We were able to just do 70 miles per hour the whole way out. Pretty neat. We fueled up in the transportation crossroads of Vizcaíno and then covered the 40 miles to San Ignacio in no time flat, where disaster struck.
Alright, so it's the afternoon of March 1st, I think it's a Thursday, and I'm sitting here drinking Pacifico in the town plaza, and I'm not sure where this is, San Ignacio, that's where it is. And the reason I'm sitting in the plaza drinking beer when there's good wine to be had is, yep, the big red pig strikes again. This time it's a loud clanking noise whenever Brad lets off the throttle. Thinking maybe camshaft tensioner going out, or not camshaft, chain tensioner potentially going out. And so he's opened it up, he's adjusted the valves again. Not sure that they'll do anything. They weren't that loose this time, even though they've been working themselves loose. And so anyways, he's over at an internet cafe across the square, and I'll show the really nice and leafy, which is good because it's hot here, especially once you get in the sun. You definitely tell we're making our way southward. Almost a tropical feel here. It's kind of an oasis in the desert. And Brad is over at the internet cafe where they're researching what in the world this could be. So we might be spending the night here. We might go out to the Pacific Coast, although some people that just came from there said they have 50-mile-an-hour winds, so maybe we'll be going to the Cid Cortez to Santa Rosalia if we can get this thing 40 miles without blowing up. So the adventure continues. One cool thing, I'm going to walk down, hopefully nobody steals or crap. I'm going to walk down to the edge here. Brad and I went into the church a little bit. It's the Mission, and beautifully restored. This one was restored back in the 70s in quite good shape, quite nice inside.
As it turned out, Brad and I would get to know the leafy mission oasis town of San Ignacio and all its residents very well indeed.